Hello, everyone. This is Serious Trivia, and today we're continuing our Prime Ministers of Shuhan Let's Talk Lore series with episode 2 titled Dongyun. Before we get started, here's the answer to our trivia question from our previous episode, and be sure to stay tuned for a new trivia question at the end of this episode. Now, last time we ended as we finished covering the life of Jiang Wan, and we mentioned that near the end of Jiang Wan's life, as he retired due to illness and old age, the position as the head of the Imperial Secretariat, or Shangshuling, went to Dongyun in the year 244. While Dongyun would only serve in this position for 2 short years before his death in 246, his contributions to the Shuhan court goes far beyond his time as the head of the Imperial Secretariat, as him and his clan had held high positions in the Shu land ever since the reign of Liu Yan. Now, Dongyun and his father, Donghe, were both born in the Nan commandery of the Jin province, but historically, the Dong clan hailed from the Ba region of the Yi province. So when the turmoil of the late Han swept through the land, Donghe, like many other refugees, decided to move his clan to safer remote regions, such as the Shu land, which also happens to be their ancestral root. Once back in Shu, Donghe leveraged his educated background into multiple mayor roles under the new governor, Liu Yan, until eventually he was elevated to become the mayor of Chengdu, where he was beloved by the poor and hated by the wealthy gentry clans, who disliked his tough policies on curbing back corruption, waste, and vanity. So in an effort to get rid of Donghe, the gentry clans tried bribing Liu Yan to give Donghe a promotion to leave Chengdu and go become the chancellor for the princedom of Badong. But when Liu Yan's convoy arrived with Donghe's appointment, thousands of citizens organized protests blocking the streets of Chengdu, trying to keep Donghe as their mayor. In the end, Liu Yan would compromise and allow Donghe to remain as the mayor of Chengdu for 2 more years before eventually promoting him as the administrator of the Yi commandery, which still ruled from Chengdu. And not only was Donghe well liked by the average Han citizen, he was also liked by the nomadic tribes surrounding the Yi province for his fair policies on trade and honest nature. Even Liu Bei's arrival did not impact Donghe and the Dong clan standing, as Donghe was made the Central Army lieutenant and shared command with Zhuge Liang of the General of the Left Office, as that was Liu Bei's official title at the time. And the pair of them, in Donghe and Zhuge Liang, hit it off right away, as Zhuge Liang finally found someone who was as hardworking and as meticulous as he was. Zhuge Liang once told his subordinates after Donghe's death that they could all learn from Donghe's work ethic, as even when there was a minor issue at court, Donghe was willing to tirelessly make up to 10 trips from his home to the office within the span of a day to make sure that the communication was clear and that the matter would be resolved in a timely manner. And when Donghe would eventually die of old age in the year 221, in the same year that Liu Bei would become emperor, he would be fondly remembered not only for his work ethic, but also for his incorruptible nature, as his family barely had 1 dan of grain left as disposable wealth at the time of his funeral. Not surprisingly, Donghe's only son, Dongyun, learned a thing or two from his father, as he was hailed as a promising scholar in his youth, on par with another one of his peers in Feiyi, even though Dongyun's own father would eventually admit that Feiyi showed superior character than his own son Dongyun. But regardless of Donghe's opinion, Liu Bei would make both Feiyi and Dongyun as the crown prince attendant for his son Liu Shan, right after Liu Bei named himself as emperor, and Liu Shan as the crown prince and heir. After Liu Bei's death, Liu Shan would become the emperor, and both Feiyi and Dongyun would be elevated as imperial attendants. And in Zhuge Liang's famed Chu Shi Biao, or the letter to Liu Shan prior to his departure for the northern expeditions, Zhuge Liang would name Feiyi, Dongyun, and Guo Youzhi as the 3 attendants that Liu Shan can lean on and learn from as all three were high caliber scholars with impeccable virtues. Of these three, Fei Yi would eventually be summoned by Zhuge Liang to become an army advisor with the Northern Expedition Forces, while Guo Youzhi had a timid nature that made it difficult for him to confront the young emperor. So Dong Yun naturally took over the role as a disciplinarian in the imperial court. Dong Yun would not only set good examples for Liu Shan to follow as a ruler, but even went as far as controlling how many concubines Liu Shan could have, as Liu Shan showed interest in expanding his harem multiple times, only to be shut down by Dong Yun, who explained that great emperors of the past usually had no more than 12 concubines, as there were already 12 in Liu Shan's harem. He should not expand it anymore. And despite not enjoying being managed, Liu Shan always listened, as he respected Dong Yun and was a tiny bit afraid of him too. And not only was Liu Shan afraid of Dong Yun, the infamous eunuch Huang Hao was also afraid of Dong Yun in his early days serving Liu Shan, as Dong Yun kept Liu Shan on the straight and narrow, even though Huang Hao was gaining more and more favor in the background. Now, unlike his peers, such as Jiang Wan and Fei Yi, whose administrative and military track records earned them great fame and accolades, Dong Yun was quite content guiding the emperor as the imperial attendant, as he would focus on managing the imperial palace, and he even repeatedly turned down title offers from Jiang Wan after Jiang Wan took over as the leader of the imperial court after Zhuge Liang's death. And by 243, Dong Yun finally received his first promotion in more than 2 decades, from imperial attendant to Fu Guo Jiangjun, or the general who helped guide the country, the same title that his father had held while assisting Zhuge Liang running the general of the left office. Then in 244, because of Jiang Wan's illness, Fei Yi was elevated to Grand General, and Dong Yun then agreed to help Fei Yi manage the court, as he would take up the title as the head of the Imperial Secretariat, making him essentially the next prime minister of Shuhan, a role that he would serve impeccably until his death in 246 due to natural causes. Now, Dong Yun's death left 2 massive voids in the Shuhan court. First, with Dong Yun out as imperial attendant, Fei Yi ended up elevating the likes of Chen Zhi to replace Dong Yun. But unlike the incorruptible Dong Yun, Chen Zhi chose to team up with the head eunuch Huang Hao, as they would exploit Liu Shan's suppressed desires to please the young emperor with sinful delights previously forbidden by Dong Yun, as means to elevate his personal powers at court. Chen Zhi would be kept in check for the most part by Fei Yi, but with Fei Yi busy splitting duties both as the commander of the military and the court after Dong Yun's death, Fei Yi struggled to keep an eye on the emperor, especially as Liu Shan was now well into his 30s and no longer a child anymore. Eventually, Fei Yi would shift his main focus back to court matters, as the military duties were given over to Jiang Wei. But as we'll see soon in our next episode, Fei Yi would eventually become one of the most famous victims of an assassination plot during the Three Kingdoms period, directly leading to the final decade of decline for the kingdom of Shuhan. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here, as our episode on Dong Yun's life comes to an end here. Even though Dong Yun only led the Shuhan court for the final 2 years of his life, his contributions as an imperial attendant in the 2 decades before played a major role in providing court stability through his meticulous guidance of Emperor Liu Shan, especially in the years that Zhuge Liang was occupied with his northern expedition and not present in Chengdu. Additionally, Dong Yun was so well respected in Shuhan that when Chen Shou wrote his records of the Three Kingdoms, he decided to write a separate chapter for Dong Yun, even though traditionally Dong Yun's life story should have been just included in his father Dong He's chapter, like all the other father and son combos in the records. And in my opinion, this speaks volumes to Dong Yun's importance in the Shuhan court. Now, hopefully y'all have enjoyed this episode enough to consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this on Three Kingdoms history, or support the channel by leaving a comment below, or simply hit that like button, as the final episode of this series on the life and death of Fei Yi will drop once this video hits 300 likes. And as always, I'll see you all then. Bye!